What y'all listening to?
Limelight Highlight Podcast.
Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Jonathan Rosario. As always, this is the Limelight Highlight Podcast, as you heard in the intro. Now, before we go any further into this podcast, I just want a quick 5 seconds of silence for all of those fallen heroes and warriors that fought for our freedom, starting now. All right. So if you haven't guessed by now, it is Memorial Day. At least when I'm recording this, it's been Memorial Day. So I hope everybody had a eventful Memorial Day. I don't know how to feel about saying Happy Memorial Day. Personally, I think you can say Happy Memorial Day. A lot of people don't. And here's reasons why. Before we get into any of that, let's start with, as always, when we have a nice holiday or some type of event coming up, a little bit of a history lesson on Memorial Day. So for Memorial Day, it actually began after the Civil War as a way to honor the brave men and women who died in the military serving the U.S., right? It was traditionally observed on May 30th, and now it's just observed on the last Monday in May. It's usually to signify, well, not officially, but people like to signify it's the beginning of summer. It kicks off summer. But what is Memorial Day? You know, I just told you when it began and everything like that, but it's really just to honor the people who served and died in the military, you know, either fighting overseas, fighting for our freedom, in a sense, you know. We have, you know, there's this confusion that people think it's Memorial Day, I should thank a veteran. As much as we appreciate your thanks, it's not our day. It's not a day for veterans. It's a day for people who, you know, gave the ultimate sacrifice and laid their life on the line, and they need to be remembered. That's why we have off. You know, we actually have it's a federal holiday. We have off on Memorial Day. We don't get off on Veterans Day. Some people might do, but we don't. And Veterans Day is different because it's more like to honor and appreciate those who are, you know, currently serving or who have served. So I can understand the confusion, but Memorial Day is very different from Veterans Day. So you can thank a service member if you like. Nobody's stopping you, but that's not what this day is about. It's a day to honor those who have fallen and given, you know, the greatest sacrifice. And one of those things is, you know, should you say Happy Memorial Day? Some people think it's inappropriate because it's you know, today's supposed to be a somber reminder of those who sacrificed their lives for freedom. But for me, I think that's completely up to you. You know, should you say Happy Memorial Day? I don't think it's a problem. Obviously, you got to be careful who you say it to, because you might be saying it to a family who actually lost a family member. You might be saying it to a person who was a family member of somebody who died. And that can get very emotional, you know. You wouldn't say, like, you know, Happy Death Day to somebody who had a funeral, whatever the case is. But we're not here to be insensitive. It's all about how you, what you're trying to bring across, rather than, you know, intentionally trying to hurt somebody's feelings. You know, that's not what we're trying to do. In my opinion, I think you can say Happy Memorial Day, because what better way to honor those people who've fallen and sacrificed that to celebrate our freedom on a day they gave us off. You know, you always see all these Facebook posts and Instagram posts and these long posts from people who are serving or people from families. And I understand the sentiment. It's a serious thing, you know. It's not a day to, they think, you know, a lot of people say it's not a day to celebrate. It's a day to mourn. It's a day to honor those who've fallen. But why not celebrate? Why not celebrate the life that they had, the life that they gave on a day off, you know, with barbecues and swim pools and, you know, a day off of work, essentially. That's what Memorial Day is all about. We're kind of, don't forget that those people sacrificed, but also be appreciative that we have the freedoms that we have, and we have the day off because of those people, because of their sacrifice. So in my opinion, should you say it? It's completely up to you. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Other people might have a different opinion, which is fine. Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying that you can't, But that's Memorial Day. That's, in my opinion, in a nutshell. There's a lot more to it. You can obviously Google and talk to other veterans or even people who are family members of those who, gave their lives for our freedom. But that's all completely up to you guys. Now, today I wanted to kind of give a positive story on Memorial Day, about Memorial Day in a sense, and finding a positive story on Memorial Day was a little bit challenging because, man, I looked it up. All you see is negative stuff, and people are exhaustingly complaining about stuff. But not to worry, I did find one, and it's about a man named Gary Marquardt. I don't really know how to say his last name, but that doesn't matter. His name's Gary. He's 66 years old, and he recently learned, depending on your definition of recent, he recently learned how to play the trumpet. Now you're probably wondering, why is this news? Well, when Gary was really young, he wanted to enlist in the military, and he kind of enlisted, waited to be drafted, or he tried to enlist anyway, but he had this, I guess, a bleeding ulcer problem and was deemed unfit to serve. So years later, I guess because we, my generation, we don't have this honor thing. Not all of us anyway. Have this thing about serving the country, and it's such an honor kind of thing going on. But people back in the day when they were, being drafted, a lot of people they wanted to be a part of the military. They wanted to serve. They wanted to do their part in fighting whatever war was, going on at the time, because that was just a generation at the time, That it's a reason they're called the greatest generation, whether you agree or not. But anyway, so I guess because he couldn't serve because of his ulcers, he had a lot of guilt, so I guess he found means of atoning, according to this article, by learning how to play the trumpet. In 2014, he was attending a funeral of one of his military friends, and he heard the trumpet playing taps. And if you don't know what taps is, for those of you who were never in the military, it's kind of it's a tune that they play when the sun sets, kind of to end the day. And he couldn't help but appreciate taps. So he wanted to figure out a way to learn how to play, the trumpet. And at 66, it's a pretty serious, pretty serious thing to play an instrument, to pick up an instrument. I mean, playing an instrument is pretty hard unless you got the time. And at 66, it's, I don't know anybody who's 66 playing instruments, but I think it'd be something hard to pick up. But for the last 5 years, he'd been playing taps from the balcony of his home in Excelsior, Minnesota. And to this day, he visits cemeteries almost every day in order to play taps for dozens of military graves. And he regularly volunteers for Bugles Across America, which is a nonprofit that recruits trumpet players to play taps at military funerals. And Gary told the Star Tribune, which is like a newspaper in the military, that he turned 70 in April, and he still has no intention of stopping. His labor of love is what he calls it. So I thought that was a really touching story. I thought it was a really good, positive story, because at 66, it just shows you that something that he couldn't be a part of, he still really appreciated and honored and wanted to do something for those people. And if you know anything about those people who were drafted in those days, a lot of them are dying now, so it's a lot of his generation. And a lot of his generation, if he couldn't be a part of that military, that greatest generation in the sense of military personnel serving, why not be a part of something that could help them, in his mind? And it helps a lot of people. I mean, playing taps is a very, especially at a funeral, is a very big honor for some. And for him, I bet he's getting all the love that he's getting a ton of love out of it. He's appreciating that he can do something for the people that he wasn't allowed or wasn't able to fight alongside with. And I thought that was very interesting, and I thought it was a story that we should definitely share because it's Memorial Day. what better way to honor those who died fighting by sharing a story of a guy who's trying to honor those who died fighting. And that's all I really have for you guys today. It's Memorial Day when I'm recording this. I didn't do anything too special, just kind of honoring the fallen in my own kind of way. I hope everybody else had a great Memorial Day, whether it was at a cemetery, whether it was, giving tribute to whoever in your family, if they have served, or people that had family that served and died, and you appreciate them. Just go out there, say thank you, and don't forget. That's the whole point of Memorial Day, is to always remember those who have fallen. And I can't stress that enough. That's why I said it and repeated it multiple times. Other than that, if you like this podcast, give it a like, subscribe, follow as always. If you have any comments or concerns or any stories that you want to share, whether you're a part of them, witnessed them, or heard, tag me. I have a couple stories in the bank right now saved that people have been tagging me in. I really appreciate all the love everybody's been giving. You guys are really interacting with the podcast, and it makes me feel great about it. So I'll be doing those next week. So stay tuned. And if you're one of those people who want to get in contact with me, you can email me directly at limelighthhighlight@gmail.com. You can also follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Limelight Highlight. I'm on Twitter as JohnRio215. Limelight Highlight name is way too long for a handle. I don't know how to abbreviate it, so that's what we got. Other than that, like I said, give it a rating, give it a comment, share this with everybody and I will see you guys next week. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Appreciate you guys for listening. And remember, be humble, be helpful, pay it forward, and be the best you can be, and go spread that love. Happy Memorial Day for those, and thank you for those who have families who served. Peace out. I'll see y'all next week.